My favorite one is feeling more connected and confident, more connected to their body and more confident about what their body can achieve. And I think that's a huge emotional piece that they can overcome. And through yoga and again the daily practice, you'll start to feel more confident, and that's going to help off the mat.
Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Clark, and my mission here is to really inspire you, motivate, and empower you. And most of all, I really want you to wake up. So with functional medicine, we can discover what causes infertility and eventually reverse this condition. Today, I'm excited to welcome Amanda Stevenson to the podcast. And we're going to be digging into how fertility yoga can help you deal with the stress of infertility. So Amanda and I work really closely together. Amanda and I co-facilitate our online fertility yoga series last year. And she's part of our online Mindfulness Fertility Series as well, which includes a class where participants can practice fertility yoga in the comfort of their own homes. And so I love how Amanda really taps into the feminine energy, and she offers a very nurturing spiritual approach to healing the body and mind. So I'll just kind of share with you a little bit about Amanda's background. So Amanda Stevenson, she's a certified yoga instructor, and she specializes in yoga for women's health, including prenatal, restorative yin, and fertility. And so she's super passionate and knowledgeable about helping women understand their bodies and how stress can affect fertility, weight gain, and blood sugar levels. So she takes a holistic approach, and she'll empower you to nourish and heal your mind and body. And she enjoys being a mom and caring for her family, and she likes spending every summer traveling around Nicaragua. She also enjoys gardening and cooking, and she's an avid reader and of health and nutrition books. And she currently teaches the in-person fertility and prenatal yoga, and she's also instructor for Fab Fertile for our online fertility yoga series. So I find that most practitioners that come to this line of work, they really have their own story, how they came to it kind of happens organically. So Amanda, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you here.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. I'm
Great.
so happy to be doing this.
Awesome. Yeah, so maybe if you can just kind of share a little bit about your work and kind of how you came to fertility yoga.
Absolutely. So I actually started about four years ago. I was working with a naturopath who she worked with. Her clients were experiencing fertility challenges, and she did acupuncture. And I started working for her at a different capacity, and then I started teaching yoga for her, doing prenatal yoga first. And then I said, I'd really like to explore fertility yoga. And as soon as I started teaching, I thought I fell in love with it because I love helping women. I'm very passionate about it. And I love, teaching women what they don't know about the body and helping them on their journey. So for me, it's a chance to connect with women and help them on their way to pregnancy.
Awesome. Well, great. Yeah. So maybe if we kind of just dig into some fertility yoga here and kind of how it can help someone that's feeling super stressed during fertility. So there's a lot of studies that show that that reducing stress levels can help improve the chances of conception. And there's certain poses that that can help with that in fertility yoga. So maybe we'll first kind of talk about, for people, what is the difference between fertility yoga and then just regular yoga that we're doing in the yoga studio?
Absolutely. So fertility yoga differs from regular yoga is unique on a few different levels. So when you go to regular yoga, you have a very generic intention for the class, and then you go through usually a series of poses, usually sun salutations. And then you finish with your sealing in your practice with the corpse pose. So fertility yoga, number one, we focus on, or my focus is in a class, is preparing your body for a healthy pregnancy. With that, we also prepare our minds as well. And you need a teacher that's a little bit different than the other teachers out there, because they need to be a little more compassionate and understanding of what women are going through at this time. So that is one big difference. You need to have a very supportive teacher and guide, and also someone who's experienced, challenges as well. That can be very helpful. And we also focus on a different style of yoga. So again, regular yoga or other types of yoga is really focused on the sun salutations, vinyasa flows, heated rooms. We focus on restorative yin postures, which I'll get into a little bit later when we talk about the different poses. We also, like I said, preparing our body for pregnancy. So we're doing these poses to help increase circulation to the reproductive organs. We're also, removing any mental blockages or emotional blockages that are specific to fertility challenges. So tapping into those deep emotions of fear, anger, sadness, regret, things like that, resentment. And the other part is just going back to the poses, is we're trying to create a space for the baby to grow, so that pelvic floor. So we're not trying to strengthen the core, again, like you're in typical poses where you're, holding plank or doing, some form of core engagement, but relaxing the pelvic floor to prepare the body for a growing baby.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you do some of these poses, it's more you have like all these different props to help it along the way, and it's not. I guess sometimes we think of yoga or power yoga where we're holding planks or doing all these crazy poses depending on where you are in your yoga practice. Whereas this, even if you are an advanced yoga practitioner coming to do fertility yoga, you might think, this seems really basic. Like I could do this no problem. But like, what do you find with people that have like experienced yoga practitioners and coming to look at fertility yoga? What do you kind of see there?
When practitioners come and see what we're doing?
No, so like someone who's done fertility,
okay.
Someone who's done yoga for years and they're doing, all kinds of advanced poses. And we're like, hey, for fertility yoga, it's a little bit different. It's slower, it's softer.
Yeah.
How do you find someone like that? Maybe you can, what's their experience and what do you typically see?
I've been very lucky, actually. Most of the students that have come into my classes absolutely love the style that I teach, the restorative yin style. Mm-hmm. I've had a few people come into class who've been at other studios and come in and going, we should be doing more active poses, because it's almost like they feel like they're doing something, but we're kind of stepping back and not doing anything. And that's the challenge in itself. We're finding that stillness, we're living presently. And also, there's this deep rest that we don't engage in on a daily basis. So, if you're typical, working full time, and then you maybe come home and then get ready for yoga, go to yoga, you do this very advanced class with lots of like poses and, you're just go. The challenge in restorative yoga and the challenge of fertility yoga is to step back and be present and be mindful and be still and just relax for an hour or, for whatever length of time we do the class for, and just be. And that is a challenge for some of these women who really need this relaxation more than anything. And that's what I found. I used to teach more active poses. And then I started, looking at my audience and going, this is not what they need. They need this relaxation.
Yeah, slower poses, which can be if you're that fast-paced world that we're all in, and then saying, wait a minute, you got to just do these little movements, could seem like, oh, this doesn't seem like it's doing anything, but that is the beauty and the power of it, though, right? Yeah.
And because, like you said earlier, I focus on stress. I mean, this really relates back to the parasympathetic nervous system versus the sympathetic nervous system. So this is, our parasympathetic nervous system that needs this rest and digest time, because we're constantly in our fight and flight, world where we're just go. And this is, and again, we'll talk about this, the whole, the whole yin energy. This is what yin does. It brings us back to that balance. We, being in a fast paced yang world, let's come back and just, find some stillness.
Mm-hmm. No, it's nice. And you touched briefly on this. So what's your take on someone that's going through fertility treatments or trying to get pregnant and hot yoga? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So, I definitely don't want to put down any type of yoga. My philosophy is any yoga is good yoga. I mean, if you're practicing and you're doing something, that's great. However, hot yoga, again, it can activate that sympathetic nervous system, and the goal is to relax our bodies. There's been lots of studies shown that I know even just exercising can actually decrease fertility chances because of the hormone levels. So the style that we do, the restorative style, allows us to tap into the parasympathetic, and in a normal temperature room, where the hot yoga can obviously speed everything up, and it can actually, I wouldn't say like, it can play with the hormones a little bit. So it's not recommended for fertility. No. And also they don't recommend it for teenage girls, and they don't recommend it for women in menopause. So if those are two big times in a woman's life where, she's going through huge hormonal changes. So imagine, pregnancy hormones that we're trying to achieve the right levels of pregnancy hormones for implantation and conception. This is an important time too, to step away from the heated classes and the hot rooms.
Okay. And so I guess kind of when some people come to me and they're trying to do meditation, and they really can't, it's hard for them to meditate. It's hard for them to sit still. The monkey mind comes into play, and it's like, telling people to breathe. It's like, what are you talking about? I just can't do that. It's too much. How is fertility yoga help someone like that who just has a hard time trying to quiet the mind? How would that work for them?
Well, again, going back to the restorative style that I encourage and I teach, it does help retrain the brain. That's really what's going on. I mean, that's what yoga is essentially doing. Any yoga that you practice is, again, just practicing being present and being mindful. So if someone is eager to, I really want to meditate, we put so much effort into, okay, I'm going to sit down, and then the thoughts keep coming up. They keep coming up, and I like to use the analogy. It's like we're training a puppy. So if you're just, if you want a puppy to come over and sit, that's what you're doing with the mind. You're just constantly reminding to come back away from the thoughts and come back to that present moment. And that's what fertility yoga, because that's essentially what we're trying to do is come back to that. It is very helpful for women to learn this in yoga, and then it will transcend to their day-to-day life. So when they're feeling frustrated and agitated, maybe someone made a comment, maybe they're at work, something's happened, I actually try to teach them to step away and just breathe and just take a few moments, or do a short meditation, or just like listen to something, soothing music or something like that, just to kind of step away from the situation and come back. And every time we do that, we're just training ourselves for, a deeper meditation. So it's just little bits at a time.
Yeah. And even some people, I guess, the sitting still, and once you put movement with it, then they're able to, they're not focused on keeping the mind active. It's like, wait a minute, I've got to put my leg here, or put my arm here, or move the body. And then next thing you know, you're because when you're instructing, you're doing a whole breathing pattern with them too, right?
Exactly. Well, and I've had some students as well fall asleep. And I say, okay, this is, your body needs this. So they're not sitting there, eyes open, looking around, playing with their phone. And that does happen, right? Because the constant distractions that we have every single day in everything that we do. But yeah, there's some women that have just they come into class, they fall asleep, and I'm like, that's okay.
You needed a nap. Yeah.
You need it. Yeah. And you still need to be, somewhat conscious when you're meditating, and because the goal is to find this stillness and just be. But yeah, I do see it on a regular basis, we'll be in a nice restorative posture, all cozy with our blankets and our pillows. And then, I can hear fidgeting in the back, but you know what, it's not wrong or right. It's just, we're just practicing. That's, and that's practice in itself. It's just coming to a space where there's no distractions. There's no phones. They're, committed to the moment. And just quickly too, that's exactly what yoga is. And we learn this in yoga training. It's called a consistent, dedicated practice. So yoga is not something we do once a week. It should be something we practice every day.
So I guess kind of like with stress, so someone comes in and they're obviously maybe like their shoulders are tight. They could have stress headaches, or they could just be like those physical signs in the body, feeling, dealing with perhaps the stress of infertility, and then all that goes into that, and also the stress of everyday life. How would fertility yoga kind of help physically to deal with that?
Yes. Yeah. So on the physical level, the heart rate, so we'll just go through a list. Heart rate decreases. So we're no longer feeling that shortness of breath, or that heart rate that goes up that comes with anxiety. It slows down. We slow down and deepen our breathing, and that's really the foundation. So once we start learning how to breathe properly, and just a little side note, when we breathe properly, our diaphragm, which is the muscle at the base of our lungs, it's a very large muscle that comes all the way across. It actually connects with our pelvic floor. So there's a big connection between how deep our breath is and how our pelvic floor is functioning. So the pelvic floor, every time we breathe deeply, will actually open up and create space. And of course, when we're stressed, what does the pelvic floor do? It automatically comes back in. We go into that fetal position because that's the fight or flight. So when we start learning how to breathe properly, we can slow down the heart rate, we can lower our blood pressure, and we can relax that pelvic floor. We're also reducing stress hormones. So we're decreasing those stress hormones that are released into the blood during that fight or flight.
Yeah, and then kind of the emotional piece of it. So if someone's feeling like, just anxious or super stressed, or sad, angry, whatever they could be feeling at this stage, how is kind of taking you through this 1 hour practice that you dedicate yourself to, how does that help with those kind of thoughts?
Well, the important thing about when we feel things, all these emotions, is we don't want to suppress them. So we want to let them surface and let them be what they are at that moment. Restorative yoga allows us to do that because, again, like you said earlier, we're not getting distracted with like moving from posture to posture. We're really starting to connect and really focus in on some of those emotions that we've been feeling, we've been suppressing for maybe years, months, in the past week or that day. So it's going to help with letting those emotions surface so we can deal with them. And maybe you cry, maybe you have to physically release it for that to happen. Also, managing your day-to-day emotions, again, off your mat. So we have our practice on the mat, we have our practice off the mat. So again, when you're confronted with situations throughout the day that are stressing you out in regards to fertility, going to the clinics, talking to the doctors, talking to the nurses, I hear that quite a bit, talking to friends and family who don't understand, being able to connect back to yourself and manage these emotions, and using the yoga techniques that we learn in class and then bring them out into your day-to-day life. So that helps emotionally because they can start to now self-regulate in a whole other way without jumping to that reactive state. My favorite one is feeling more connected and confident, more connected to their body and more confident about what their body can achieve. And I think that's a huge emotional piece that they can overcome, because they really start to feel down on themselves and lose faith in their body and their body's capability as a woman. And through yoga and, again, the daily practice, you'll start to feel more confident, and that's going to help off the mat. You feel more.
Right. Yeah, that's the kind of like one where women feel that their body has failed them really in this. They're the thing that they were meant to do, to have a baby, they're not able to do it. And so when you're able to then sort of feel powerful again in your own body, to see how powerful it really is, and using some of these moves to do that, it can be really empowering.
Absolutely. And then with that being said, that leads to more self-love and appreciation and more gratitude. So again, those feeling good every day and just coming back to those, I love myself, I care for myself, I appreciate everything, and I'm grateful for what I have. Living more presently, that's a huge one. Just being present at every, we all live in the past, live in the future. It's really hard to just be focused on one thing at a time, but it's very powerful in that sense, because you're more aware, you're more connected at that present time, and you feel emotionally better. And I see this in my students, not necessarily they tell me this, but I see it. So they may have gone through something very devastating, like a miscarriage, the loss of a baby, and then they start to come to yoga and they start to connect, and we start to create a community, and we start to talk, and they get the support they need, and then something happens. They're like, they feel better about the next steps to come. They're emotionally ready because they were able to use the classes to release and let everything go. And then they're like, okay, I'm ready to move forward. And I hear that quite a bit. Okay, I hear them say, I had to come back from the clinics and now I'm going back, because they have to go through IVF, and that they feel more prepared. And I think that's just, it's so rewarding for them to feel that way.
Yeah, it's important because a lot of times, kind of, the more you push down the emotions, then you prolong the suffering. So to let it out, which can be painful, but to have it in a supportive environment. That's when we go through the fertility yoga there together with our students too. It's sort of the same thing where you see people that may have maybe just in a really dark place, and then as they keep building on the strength of their body and then their mind, they are able to transform. And I like that, as their confidence builds as well.
Yes, and I do see that week by week. Like look at one of my students now, from the week she started. Very sad story. She has endometriosis. She lost a baby at 20 weeks. She came into class. She knew she had to have surgery on one of her fallopian tubes. This pushed her to go into an IVF treatment plan. And she grieved. She came to the classes faithfully. She bought a journal from like chapters and and started like meditating. And she came and she said, so I'm trying again, after Christmas, like my surgery's done. And she just had this big smile on her face. Like she was just ready, ready to move forward. And she's dealt with, she needs to deal with. And it's just, and that's part of it. It's just that she's living presently. She's just moving forward and trying to create the family that she wants. And it's amazing. Amazing watching them go through these little tiny, these little things week by week, up to the point where they're like, okay, and she came, and it's from a very genuine place. Like, this is, she's dealt with everything and now she's ready to go forward.
Can you talk a little bit about the benefits for us for the Legs Up the Wall, just because it is so foundational?
It is. So Legs Up the Wall, number one, it changes circulation. So it's actually considered an inversion, and it's no different than standing on your head, doing headstand, handstand. It's just a more gentler approach. And so when we reverse circulation, all of the, let's say the chi, or the energy that is stagnated in our feet and our legs, will actually start to come back down. So your feet might start to feel like a little tingly or cold. Yeah. That's usually the response I get the first couple of times, because you're just taking all this stagnant blood now and moving it down back to the pelvis, back to the liver, so that it can be recycled out. So it's a way of almost, I hate using the word detox, but you're cleansing the blood by letting it flow back down to the pelvis. So it's also great for sleep. So a lot of women who have trouble sleeping and anxiety, which usually go hand in hand because their minds just go. It really just brings you down to this, it just calms you right down. That's what inversions typically do. It brings blood to all different areas of the body. It also, because it brings blood back down to the pelvis, it's actually nourishing for the reproductive organs. Again, the best multivitamin is breathing properly. So, and oxygenating your body, because when your cells are oxygenated, then they're working properly and they can take in the nutrients that they need. So when we're, changing the blood flow, we're now oxygenating this whole area that may have been a little bit stuck or stagnant or blocked for a long time. And it's overall just very relaxing. Just a great place to, and the nice thing is too, like sometimes I'll start my day with it, Legs Up the Wall, even though it's really relaxing, but I find that it just kind of gives you this nice, steady energy as well. So it's great for the end of the day, great for the start of the day, great in the middle of the day, whenever you have time to do it. Legs Up the Wall is essential.
And you can go to our website actually there. We've got instructions on how to go about putting the legs up the wall. It's fairly simple, but you can just check that out on the website as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe just talk a little bit about spirituality. So if someone maybe is not, they might not consider themselves overly spiritual and they want to kind of tap into the spirituality, how would fertility yoga help them access that part of them that maybe they haven't awakened yet, or it's there, but how do they kind of tap into it?
Yeah, spirituality has many different perceptions and definitions, and I think it often gets confused with religion. And people say, "Well, I'm religious, so I'm already spiritual." But spirituality is really just what my experience with spirituality is really tapping into the universe, or if it is whatever that is for you. God can be anything. Could be nature. Nature is a great spiritual practice because nature just happens naturally, and we can learn so much from just going out and walking and being in a forest, or being in a walking down a trail, or just observing how nature just unfolds so beautifully. And so it really is a connection. That's what I think spirituality is. So maybe you come to class and you're just, I really need to connect back to my body. I need to connect back to my, that higher self. And that's really what yoga is about anyways. So for the transition, it could be pretty easy because you're living presently and you're living more mindfully. The mind drifts, like I said before, and from past to future, which causes a lot of emotions. So anxiety, anger, fear, and yoga essentially trains the mind to live presently, and it cleanses using our breath work to help that agitated mind.
Yeah, because we're either ruminating about the past or catastrophizing about the future, and then more people hang out with the future, especially with infertility, kind of anticipating what's going to happen on the next cycle. Are we going to get pregnant? Yeah, so being able to focus and stay in the present moment, and then in that moment, that connection with something else.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of wanted to chat a little bit about some resources that you like, sort of maybe some, I think you have an app that you think is good, and maybe some other things that you can think of to recommend to our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're so lucky to live in 2018,
Yay!
2017,
Right.
now moving into 2018 with so much information at our fingertips. Like, we're so fortunate, and it's one of those small things to be grateful for. But apps, those apps we put on our phone. I'd love to tell people, or ladies, hey, get rid of your phones, but we have to survive in this world as well, and it's not realistic. So there's great apps. There's one called Insight Timer, which has it's wonderful because there's music. There's a whole section on music. There's meditations, guided meditations, and you can select the amount of time you have. So there's no excuses. I don't have time, because you can set a 5-minute meditation for yourself.
I know, that's what I'd say to people. Just start with a couple minutes. It's not half an hour. It's a couple minutes.
Yep. One of the books I constantly bring to class is called Journey to the Heart, written by Melody Beattie. I get a lot of questions. Where'd you get this book? It's easy to find on Amazon and at your local bookstore. Wonderful daily insights. I read it quite a bit in class, and I find that a lot of women love the insights of this book. And the other resource, I've forgotten now.
I think Louise Hay.
Louise Hay, thank you.
For affirmations. She's got some awesome ones. Yeah.
Daily affirmations. Yeah. So Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, was one of my first self-help books that I ever read, and changed my life. And it's still changing lives. Even she passed away.
Passing, yeah.
Yeah, she's still helping people. But wonderful book. Really, really, like, lots of great daily affirmations and insights, and a lot of things that we can relate to. So I love those. As I love books still. I always say, go and find a really good book. And I also really encourage getting a daily planner with lots of something you can journal in. Journaling is that putting that pen to paper is very powerful. And and it's a little, you could just bring it with you, and just if you take the train to work, or if you have a few minutes at the end of your day or before your day, just write.
Yeah.
Get those things out. So, and there's lots of great books that kind of give you like a daily, little daily motivations along with what you're doing. So
Yeah, I also recommend if people aren't feeling the journaling thing, because not everyone loves writing, they can use their phone and use the record to just record their voice and get whatever thoughts are out there and put it on their phone, and they can delete it later. They don't need to keep it, or they can keep it and listen to what it is they've said. So if you're not feeling the journaling side of things, you can still record your thoughts. Yeah, so maybe share with us some. You think you have a success story. Well, you've got many success stories to talk about, people that have been through your classes, and I think you have one specific one you wanted to share with the audience.
So I think we're going on about it was about a year ago now. One of my students was with me for about 6 months or so. I run 6 week sessions locally here at a little women's place, and she came in and she practiced with me for a while, and she was going through her last round of IVF. She was about 35 at the time, and she came into class one day and said, "This is it. This is my last." She was a very positive person. Very, she did everything. She'd been trying for 5 years. And she said, "This is my last run at this," because she said, "I'm just, stressed out now. And this is, my last go at it." So we continued to do yoga. She went for IVF, and she'd done everything before. She changed her diet. She did an elimination diet. She cut out gluten and dairy and all those things, those things that you talk about, Sarah.
Right.
She went for acupuncture. She practiced meditation. She had this whole holistic approach right to the very end, and she has a little boy. And he's I haven't met him yet because we keep crossing paths, but it's been, I think he's about 6 months old now. So
nice.
Yeah. So great success story. And I do talk about her quite a bit in my classes because she was really frustrated and ready to give up, and she's kept going, kept with her holistic practice, and she encouraged other students too. She was a good advocate for, hey, yeah, you need to change your diet. Hey, yeah, you need to try acupuncture. It does work. Yeah, get to yoga, do it all the time. So she was, very inspirational lady, and very happy that she was successful.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And so Amanda is part of our Mindfulness Fertility program. So that's launching in January. And if you think this is going to be something you'd be interested in, so we talk about mindfulness, there's cognitive restructuring. We've got Amanda in there doing a fertility yoga practice. We help with enhancing the relaxation response. So it's put on by myself and Mira Posner. So we co-facilitate it, and she's a professional therapist. So if you think that's going to be something that's right for you, you can go to Fab Fertile and book a free call, and we can have a chat. And I'd just like to really thank Amanda for coming on here and sharing her wisdom and some of her stories that she's shared with us about fertility yoga and kind of how she got into helping women conceive, and really this sort of her passion and living and working something that she really enjoys. So I wanted to thank her very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. And if I can just leave a nice quote.
Yeah, go for it.
I just found this quote recently. You do not need to know precisely what is happening or exactly where it's all going. What you need to recognize is the possibilities and changes offered by the present moment, and to embrace them with courage, faith, and hope.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, Amanda, and have a great day, everybody. Thank you for listening to Get Pregnant Naturally. Seriously, it means the world to me that you're here. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of upcoming episodes. I'm excited to offer you a special gift. If you're a U.S. resident, text FERTILE, FERTILE, to 345-345. You'll be prompted to enter your email address, and you'll receive our guided fertility visualization recording. It's led by a certified hypnotherapist, and you'll explore the fertility garden and tap into the relaxation response. So for U.S. residents, text FERTILE to 345-345. For non-U.S. residents, go to www.nbsp, getpregnantfreebie, so getpregnantfreebie.com to access your special gift. So that's Get Pregnant Freebie to access the guided fertility visualization. And I love this quote from Gabrielle Bernstein. The universe is always speaking to us, sending us little messages, causing coincidences and serendipities, reminding us to stop, to look around, to believe in something else, something more. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.